All right, Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises to Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, Hashem Rakar Kodash, double honors to the apostles and elders at Great Millstone that rule well, salutations to the hopeful elect, pushing this word in sincerity and truth on the four corners of the earth. All right, and this is another article I seen on RT News. It says the U.S. bombed Japan in 1945 to demonstrate its power to the USSR. Intimidation, not deterrence, was, is, and will always be the goal. Now this goes back to the video that I just did, previous video that I did on the U.S. Using this media, all right, to make China look like a threat to the economy, all right. But once again, just like this article says, it's not deterrence, man. It's just intimidation, all right. Nobody's actually sitting back and fucking with the U.S. They never did. The U.S. has just been the bully on the earth, all right. It's like the scriptures say, which is a future prophecy that's going to happen, but they're going to say, it says, how is the hammer of the earth cut asunder? All right, meaning how did the bully get beat up? All right, and this article shows that, man. He just that's what a bully does. He intimidates you, right, to get what he wants from you, just to have that power over you. And that's what America has been doing to the nations. And you see, these nations ain't forgot about this, because I believe this was a couple years ago. It was like the something anniversary of that shit, you know, and they had like this big ceremony. So the nations ain't forgot about this, and the nations want revenge, and they're going to shoot missiles on America to get their revenge. All right, but it says, as the world reflects on the decision by the U.S. to drop 2 atomic bombs on Japan at the end of World War II, the reality is that the U.S. nuclear enterprise remains the greatest threat to world peace, which is true. All right, matter of fact, Revelation 6:4, and there went out another horse that was red, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. All right, this is referring to Esau, all right, American Edomite, which you know is so-called, white people or whatever. This is referring to them, all right, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, just like this article is talking about. The biggest threat to world peace is what? Esau, and nothing else. Jake is not running out here bombing. We ain't got the muscle, or what I'm saying, to say, well, we're going to go bomb this nation. We don't own no bombs. And these other nations that even do got artillery is nothing more than a method for them to protect themselves from America. That's the only reason the nations got weapons, is to defend themselves from America. All right, it says, and that they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword. Now, one of the examples of that great sword is shit like atomic bombs. That's a great sword. All right, a sword just being a representation of any weapon. Like a gun, it could be considered a sword, just an instrument of war. All right, and this is what America does. It go around the world bombing the shit out of people, man. All right. So it says, the reality is that the U.S. nuclear enterprise remains the greatest threat to world peace. All right. And this is all prophecy, man. Like you see in Revelation 6:4, the Most High made them like that. All right. 75 years ago this week, 2 American B-29 super fortresses bombers departed Tinian Island in the northernmost part of Mauritius Islands, some 1,500 miles south of Tokyo, armed with the world's newest and most horrific weapon, going into that great sword. All right, it says the atomic bomb. On August 6th, the B-29, nicknamed the Enola Gay, dropped a single bomb containing 64 kilograms of highly enriched uranium over the Japanese city of Hiroshima. The bomb, nicknamed Little Boy, detonated with the force of 15 kilotons of TNT. At least 66,000 people were killed outright, with another 69,000 wounded, many of whom subsequently died of their injuries. 2 days later, a second B-29 nicknamed Bhaskar dropped a bomb containing 6.4 kilograms of plutonium over the city of Nagasaki, This weapon, nicknamed Fat Man, detonated with a force of 21 kilotons, killing some 39,000 people, Japanese outright, and wounding another 25,000, most of whom, like those injured in Hiroshima, later died from the wounds. All right. So this is an example of that great sword. All right. It says American historians have struggled with the morality of dropping weapons that destroy a city and its population in one mighty blast. No, they haven't. I mean, the average Americans don't give a fuck about nothing but America. You know, they don't empathize with, like, them people in the Middle East over there. You know, and all these nations is pieces of shit anyway. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to defend them, but just if you want to talk about morality, the people would be in the uproar about America being over there in the Middle East for 30 years, probably over 30 years. But they've been over there since the first Bush administration. All right. It says, over the years, a consensus has been reached that justifies the horror of using the atomic bomb on the grounds that it helped shorten the war with Japan, and in doing so save hundreds of thousands of American lives that would have been lost in any invasion of the main Japanese islands, along with the lives of millions of Japanese who would have died defending their homeland. So what's being implied here, and this can only be in the mind of an Edomite. What's being implied here is us killing you helped save your life. That's basically what they just said. Well, more Japanese, Ammonites would have died if we just went hand to hand and did it on the ground. So we helped y'all by bombing the shit out of y'all and, creating all those birth defects, because them Ammonites over there was affected by that because of all that radiation for generations and generations. So when a woman would have a baby and shit, the baby would be fucked up. Like deformed and shit, like a foot would come out his neck or some weird shit. You know what I'm saying? Because of that act, man. But leave it to an Edomite to justify mass murder. All right, just like they tell us, you know what I'm saying? Just like it was a saying, at least I heard this when I was growing up, like, well, black people was, so-called black people was over there in Africa, and we brought y'all over here and civilized y'all. What the fuck? No, that's not true. All right, y'all stole us to build your country for free. You know what I mean? They have no excuse for what they did to the natives. Like, how did they need your help? So this is just the sick, twisted mind of an Edomite, man. All right. It says the problem with this narrative is that it provides an inaccurate picture of what really transpired. Certainly, the math regarding expected casualties in the case of an invasion of Japan is factually accurate as far as estimates go. However, the reality was that Japan was on the cusp of surrendering, and had the U.S. offered conditional terms replicating the post-war arrangement eventually reached by General MacArthur, the retention of the imperial family and modicum of Japanese self-governance. It says there is every reason to believe that the Japanese would have surrendered without the U.S. resorting to a costly campaign of conquest. All right, but it's all about the bully method with Esau. He wants you to fear him. He don't just want to beat you. He wants you to fear him to the point you'll never come up against him again. Which, the whole world gonna come up against Esau soon. All right. But, that's what they want to do, bully you. So they saying that it's no way that you fighting the enemy and you don't know that they're on the verge of surrendering in any fight. But that's not how Esau get out. He's not gonna come with no peace treaty or nothing until he quenches his bloodthirst. All right. It says the fact of the matter is Truman's inner circle, including Secretary of State James Barnes and Secretary of War Henry Stimson, were in favor of dropping the atomic bomb on Japanese cities not so much because it would shorten the current war with Japan, but primarily because it would help deter a future war with the Soviet Union. All right, to basically scare them. All right, because you gotta realize when this shit happened back in the 40s, this is like shocking. You know what I'm saying? Nobody had never dropped no bomb like that. So the whole world was like, them fools, America, they crazy. You don't fuck with them. That was the point. All right. And this is the mind of an Edomite. Look at the Willie Lynch letter. I refer to that a lot. That's straight wickedness, and the basis of it is to destroy the Israelites mentally. Don't just, let's say, kill them or us. Do it in a fashion where they will be so intimidated that they won't fuck with us. We'll break them. The police use that method. That's why niggas pop off at anybody but the police. I mean, now, it ain't like police is getting knocked off. But you may see somebody punch a cop in the face in this current time or something, but it ain't like they're getting what they're given, which is, death. Is y'all ain't, Most High gonna put the spirit on y'all to take it that far eventually. But right now, you still mentally broken, man. All right. Says, Bayerns believed that Russia might be more manageable in a post-war reality shaped not by the theoretical possibility of an atomic bomb, but the demonstrated destructive capacity of the new weapon. As General Leslie Groves, the military director of the Manhattan Project that produced the two American bombs, relayed to the scientists involved. The whole purpose of this project was to subdue the Russians. The distinction is critical to the understanding the role played by nuclear weapons in American nuclear posture and policy today. Doctrine, like organizations and people, are heavily influenced by the circumstances of their birth. There is a huge distinction between the calculation required to justify using a weapon for the purpose of shortening a war and saving lives. Yeah, it's contradictory. And that used to seek to intimidate a potential future opponent by demonstrating the destructive capability of a weapon through the annihilation of two cities and their respective populations that otherwise need not have been targeted for destruction. Americans like to embrace the narrative of the use of the two atomic bombs that targeted Hiroshima and Nagasaki as a perverse act of humanitarianism. That's funny. We had to kill hundreds of thousands in order to save millions. But you shit like not going to war, and Esau is a war demon, all right. But shit like not going to war would save even more lives. But this is the mind of an Edomite. Seen in this light, the continued possession of nuclear weapons by the United States is a necessary evil, as their existence help prevent, through deterrence, the future employment of these terrible weapons of mass destruction. But when viewed through a lens that reflects the reality of the genesis of the atomic bomb, that is a force of intimidation, the power of which had to be demonstrated through the murder of hundreds of thousands of people, most of whom were civilians who otherwise would have survived. The atomic bomb and its progeny were no longer a necessary evil, but rather pure evil personified. And that's what Esau is. That's a great term for Edomite, pure evil personified, man. All right. It says the United States has long struggled with the need to balance the notion of war made easy through the existence of nuclear weapons and the temptation to use them that such a philosophy promotes, and the harsh reality of retaliation at the hands of other nuclear powers should it be inclined to use them. And bombs aren't a necessary evil. It's a coward way out. Like back in the ancient world, you fought for real. Like when you look at those 300 movies, you was like, that's a real war. You got a sword, an actual sword, and you running up on people. You lined up, and y'all just see who survive on the battlefield. So shit, it's just coward shit by Esau. He's a coward. Just like when y'all first came over here into the Americas, that's why y'all started using the Gatling gun. Why? Because you couldn't fight in the field. Native American, so-called Native and Seminole Indians, Gad and Reuben was over here kicking the shit out of y'all, man. So y'all had to find a way not to fight from a distance. Like a sniper is like the most cowardice, quote unquote, warrior ever. You shooting people, they don't even see it coming. But that's their tactical warfare, man. Dropping bombs. If a plane flying over and drop a bomb, you can't defend that. What are you gonna do? Which some people would look as a smart thing, but anybody who had any, let's say integrity in warfare, if you will, knows that's some coward shit. All right, but where I'm at, the fact that over the years the U.S. has been tempted to use nuclear weapons to resolve difficult non-nuclear conflicts, Korea, Vietnam, which is another example of America, because America was getting their ass kicked in Vietnam. You know what I'm saying? Getting their ass whooped. That's why they did what they did, man. Couldn't fight them on the ground, so let's fly over the sky and do some weird shit. No, not some weird shit, but some cowardice shit, And Iraq come to mind only underscores the reality that intimidation and not deterrence is their principal value, and that's true. But the nation is not intimidated no more. All right, they're gonna shoot missiles on y'all, man. They're not intimidated by y'all no more. All right, so that's why it's another article on here. I'm trying to get into that one. Where Russia is over there flexing their little missiles. Remember Kim Jong-un went on his run where he was flexing the missiles, talking about I'm gonna blow up America. China flexing their shit. Everybody flexing their missiles because they want to smoke with America. All right, but I ain't gonna hold you. Just wanted to, Salaki, I didn't even know there was more on here. The fact that the U.S. continues to design and deploy nuclear weapons based on their usability should send a chill down the neck of every American citizen, and indeed of the neck of every citizen around the world. This is especially so now, given the current ambivalence of the U.S. to the kind of arms control that previously helped reduce the risk of inadvertent nuclear conflict. In the past 20 years, the U.S. has withdrawn from the Anti-Ballistic Missile Treaty and the Intermediate Range Nuclear Force Treaty, which these are both treaties that kind of put a ceiling on how much nuclear weapon production, if you will, that you could have. And guess who withdrew from the shit? All right, you guessed it. All right, and is on the cusp of allowing the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty to expire without replacement. Here we go again. Because if they know Esau, the mind of the wicked Esau, or he knows if he's under these treaties, somebody can get an advantage on him. See, when you do all this evil and shit, you nervous, you paranoid. So they feel like, well, we don't want nobody to get one up on us because they remember all this evil shit that not all the evil shit that they did, but the evil shit that they're doing because they haven't stopped. It's been a continuous demonic, violent presence on the earth. All right. Instead of doubling down on trying to revive arms control, the U.S. seems focused on flexing its muscle through the deployment of new small-yield warheads on submarine-launched ballistic missiles. It's also up warheading and flight testing Minuteman III intercontinental missiles armed with 3 multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, despite the fact that the operational Minuteman III force is deployed with only a single warhead. It says American politicians and military planners may seek to mollify a worried world by insisting that these actions and others like it are meant only to bolster the deterrent capability of the U.S. nuclear enterprise, but the world should not be fooled. 75 years ago, the United States murdered hundreds of thousands of Japanese for the sole purpose of seeking to intimidate Russia. A recent experience, and if you wanted to intimidate Russia so bad, you should have, dropped it on Russia. Well, Esau a weak, man. All right. It says a recent exercise involving the newly deployed low-yield SLBM, in which the Secretary of Defense practiced the weapons release procedures in a scenario involving the targeting of Russian forces in Europe, must be viewed in the shadow of this history. Intimidation, not deterrence, was, is, and always will be the driving force behind America's nuclear arsenal. Like any schoolyard bully, the concern isn't if the U.S. will use these weapons, but when. All right, and when y'all they're gonna be ready. It's prophecy, man. They're gonna shoot missiles over here on y'all. All right, but I ain't gonna hold you. Just wanted to make that video. I hope it was edifying. That I'm gonna say shalom.